the shadow. There's a part of you you pretend doesn't exist. The version that gets jealous, that judges, that wants things you'd never admit out loud. Jung called this the shadow, and ignoring it doesn't make it go away. It just gives it more control. Think about when you lash out at someone and regret it later, or when someone annoys you for reasons you can't explain. That's often your shadow reacting. It's the part of you you've buried so deep, you don't even realize it's still running the show. The mistake most people make is trying to be good all the time. Polished, kind, agreeable. But that's usually just the persona, another mask we wear, and we'll get to that later. The more you push down your anger, your selfishness, your insecurity, the more they leak out in twisted ways. Silent resentment, passive aggression, overreactions that make no sense in the moment. Jung believed that the real work is to face the shadow, not to let it take over, but to admit it's there and understand what it's trying to say. Maybe your anger is pointing to a boundary you've been too afraid to set. Maybe your envy is highlighting something you deeply want but don't believe you deserve. When you stop pretending to be only the good parts of yourself, you become more whole. You stop projecting your shadow onto everyone else and start owning it. That's how you grow, not by being perfect, but by being honest. With yourself first, then everyone else. The persona. You wear a mask every day, whether you realize it or not. At work, you speak a little differently. Around certain friends, you laugh at things you don't find funny. In relationships, you sometimes hold back thoughts to avoid conflict. That mask, Jung called it the persona. It's not fake, it's functional. You need it to survive in society. But it becomes a problem when you start believing the mask is the real you. When you build your identity around being the funny one, or the nice one, or the strong one, and anything that doesn't fit that gets buried. Eventually that disconnect catches up. You feel exhausted around people. You don't know what you actually want anymore. You say yes when you mean no, and smile when you feel numb. Ever been in a situation where someone complimented you and it felt off, like they were praising a version of you that isn't real? That's the persona showing. And the deeper the gap between that image and who you are inside, the more anxious or empty you feel. The work isn't to throw away the mask, it's to know when you're wearing it and why, so you can start showing up more fully instead of performing a role that's quietly killing you. The Anima and Animus. There's a part of you that doesn't match the role you were taught to play. If you're a man, maybe you've been told to stay tough, be logical, never cry. But sometimes you feel deeply, or you want to nurture, or you just need softness, and it feels wrong even though it's not. That's the anima. If you're a woman, maybe you were told to be agreeable, gentle, supportive. But there's a part of you that wants to lead, challenge, break rules. That's the animus. These aren't rigid categories, they're inner voices, inner energies, and the more one side gets rejected, the louder it shows up in ways you don't expect, through projection, emotional chaos, or feeling like something's missing. Think about the kind of people who pull a strong reaction out of you. Maybe you're drawn to someone mysterious, or repelled by someone who's too blunt. Often, they're mirroring what's underdeveloped in you. The goal isn't balance, it's recognition. Let yourself hold both sides. You can be firm and soft, wild and quiet, or logical and emotional, the collective unconscious. You carry memories that were never yours, images, instincts, fears. You never learned them, yet they live in you. A snake slithers by, and your body reacts before your mind does. A dream places you in an ancient temple, even if you've never read a myth in your life. That's the collective unconscious at work. It's not personal memory, it's inherited, not just from your parents, but from humanity itself. Symbols passed down across time, the mother, the hero, the shadow. These show up in stories, dreams, and the roles you find yourself drawn to or resisting without knowing why. Think of it like a blueprint buried beneath the noise of everyday life. You don't notice it until it shows up in symbols, repeated patterns, or unexplained feelings. Ever felt like a movie character mirrored a part of you too perfectly? That's not coincidence. It's archetype recognition. It hits deep because it comes from deep. You don't have to believe in it for it to move you. It already does. The work is to notice the patterns and ask why they keep showing up. That's where meaning starts to form, quietly, underneath everything else, the archetypes. Most decisions aren't made in isolation. They're influenced by silent roles playing out in the background. The rebel, the caregiver, the outcast. These aren't characters from stories. They're patterns you fall into without realizing it. Think about the times you've felt a need to fix everyone's problems, or when you've chased validation by trying to prove you're special. These urges don't just come from personal history. They echo something deeper, universal roles built into the psyche. You might shift between them depending on where life puts you. One moment, you're the hero fighting to hold things together. The next, you're the trickster, disrupting routines because something inside won't stay quiet. Archetypes aren't labels to get stuck in. They're mirrors. If a certain one keeps repeating, there's usually a reason. Paying attention helps you stop being pulled by them unconsciously and start choosing your response instead. That's how they lose control over you. Individuation. You aren't just becoming who you are. You're slowly remembering who you've always been underneath everything you were told to be. Individuation is Jung's word for the lifelong process of becoming whole. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming real. That includes the parts you hide, the emotions you suppress, the dreams you gave up because someone said they didn't make sense. Think about the version of yourself that shows up at work, at home, with friends. They're all slightly different. Individuation is what happens when those fragments begin to talk to each other. When you stop choosing between your logic and your intuition, your strength and your sensitivity, and start owning all of it. It's not easy. Sometimes it means letting go of who you thought you were supposed to be, but the more aligned you become on the inside, the less approval you need from the outside. That's the shift. That's the point. The ego and the self. You spend a lot of life building your ego, your idea of who you are, what you like, how others see you. It's the version of you that shows up to get things done, fit in, feel important. But that's not the full story. According to Jung, the ego is just a small island in a much deeper sea. That sea is the self. The self isn't the mask you wear or the role you play. It's the part of you that's watching quietly beneath all of that. It holds your contradictions, your longings, your forgotten truths. It doesn't need to win arguments or prove anything. It just is. When you ignore it, you feel scattered, like you're chasing something without knowing why. But when you're in touch with it, there's a quiet kind of clarity, even in chaos. Picture a moment when you surprised yourself with your own reaction. Maybe you stayed calm when you usually would have exploded, or you cried during a film you didn't expect to feel anything about. That wasn't your ego managing the situation, that was the self slipping through. The goal isn't to kill your ego, it's to stop letting it run the whole show. Let it do its job, but keep it in conversation with what's deeper. That's where real growth happens. Active imagination. You've probably had a random image pop into your mind. Someone's face, a place from childhood, a moment that didn't happen but somehow feels familiar. Most people ignore that. Jung didn't. He called it the start of a conversation. Active imagination is about staying with those images. Instead of brushing them off, you sit with them. You let them speak. You don't control the scene, but you don't drift passively either. You engage, like entering a dream while awake. Let's say a figure shows up in your mind. Dark coat, won't speak, just stares. Most would push that away. But if you follow it, ask it something, let it respond. You begin uncovering something from your unconscious. Not facts, truths, emotional truths you've buried. This isn't fantasy roleplay. It's confronting what's hiding inside you, like the anger you pretend isn't there, or the hurt you mask with sarcasm. These parts show up in strange forms because they're not allowed to come out as themselves. Active imagination doesn't hand you answers. It holds up a mirror. If you're willing to look, really look, it becomes one of the most honest forms of inner work you'll ever do. Not to control your mind, but to meet it on its terms. Synchronicity. You notice the same number everywhere, on receipts, clocks, billboards, or someone crosses your mind and then calls seconds later. Dismiss it as coincidence and nothing changes, but pause and it might start to mean something. Jung called this synchronicity. It's when two things connect meaningfully, even if there's no clear cause. Not magic, not superstition, just life sending you a message in its own language, through timing, patterns, and strange alignments. Say you're stuck in a job you hate but you won't admit it. Then a book falls off a shelf. Its title? Change or Die. No ghost pushed it. No logic planned it. But the emotional impact? That's real. It hits because something in you was already stirring. Synchronicity usually shows up when you're on the edge of a shift, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. It's not about chasing signs in everything. It's about noticing when reality nudges you with more than just data. What matters is the inner response. Not what the event proves, but what it provokes inside you. A feeling, a memory, a decision. Synchronicity isn't there to answer questions for you. It's there to remind you to start asking the right ones. Psychological types. Some people recharge alone. Others light up around company. Some make decisions from logic. Others go with their gut. Neither is wrong, just different ways of being. Jung called this psychological types. You probably know the popular version through personality tests, but Jung's original idea wasn't about putting people in boxes. It was about showing how your mind has a preferred way of seeing the world and making choices. Maybe you're someone who notices small changes in your environment. Or maybe you tune into meaning and patterns others miss. That's your type in action, not a label, but a lens. Understanding this doesn't just help you figure yourself out. It helps you stop expecting everyone else to think like you do. Once that clicks, relationships shift. Frustration drops. You stop fighting difference and start working with it. That's the real use of this idea. The wise old man and the eternal child. You carry both the voice of age and the spark of youth inside you. One wants stillness, the other wants to explore. Jung called them the wise old man and the eternal child, two sides of your inner life constantly pushing and pulling. The wise old man shows up when you pause to reflect instead of reacting. He's the part of you that knows some things can't be rushed, that silence has answers too. You felt it when you took a step back from chaos and saw the pattern clearly. The eternal child is the part that refuses to fully grow up. And that's not a flaw. It's your instinct to stay curious, to question, to wonder why things have to be the way they are. You tap into it every time you ditch routine for adventure or laugh at something completely pointless. The key is balance. Too much of the old man and you stall out. Too much of the child and nothing sticks. But when they work together, something clicks. You stay grounded without losing wonder. That's when you grow without becoming bitter. Jung's theory of symbols. You don't just dream in pictures. You dream in symbols. And most of the time, those symbols come from a place deeper than your daily thoughts. In Jung's view, a symbol isn't just a random image. It's something that holds more meaning than your mind can fully explain. A snake might not just be a snake. It might stand for fear, transformation, or temptation, depending on where you are in life. Same with water, mirrors, locked doors, shadows. They all speak a language that goes straight to the emotional core. You've seen this play out. A nightmare leaves you unsettled for days, not because it made logical sense, but because it struck something raw. That's the symbol doing its work. It bypasses the surface and hits a nerve. This goes beyond dreams too. The tattoos you choose, the stories you love, even the songs that feel like they get you. Those are modern symbols, and if you trace them back, they'll usually point to something you're wrestling with inside. Jung believed your psyche uses symbols to guide you through change. They're clues. They show up when words fall short, nudging you toward what your conscious mind isn't ready to face yet, but the message always finds its way through. Carl Jung didn't hand out easy answers. He handed you a mirror. What you do with it is up to you. If anything in this series made you pause, reflect, or see yourself a little more clearly, then you're already on the path. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about peeling back the noise until you finally see what's been there all along. If this kind of content speaks to you, hit like, subscribe, and stick around. There's more to explore, and you don't have to do it alone.